I remember the exact moment he walked out. It was late at night in the hospital, the kind of quiet where every beep from the monitor felt too loud. I was 32 weeks pregnant, hooked up to machines because the doctors were fighting to keep our baby inside me just a little longer. My blood pressure had spiked again, the preeclampsia was getting worse, and they just told me I might have to stay on bed rest for the rest of the pregnancy. I was scared, truly, deeply scared for our little boy, for myself, for everything we'd planned. He was sitting in the plastic chair beside my bed, staring at the floor. I reached for his hand, needing him to look at me, to say something that would make the fear feel smaller. Instead, he pulled his hand away, slow and deliberate, like touching me might burn him. "I can't do this," he said, so quietly I almost thought I'd imagined it. I asked him what he meant. My voice cracked. I begged him to explain. He stood up, grabbed his jacket from the back of the chair, and looked at me one last time. Not with anger, not even with sadness, just empty. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Then he walked through the door and down the hallway. I listened to his footsteps until they faded into nothing. The nurse found me a little later, crying silently into the thin hospital pillow so I wouldn't disturb the monitors. She held my hand instead. She stayed. He never came back. Not for the emergency C-section 2 weeks later. Not when they placed our son, tiny, perfect, fighting, in my arms. Not for the weeks in the NICU, the sleepless nights, the endless worry. He went silent. Completely. Phone dead, apartment empty, social media gone. Just vanished. I learned to live with the silence. I had to. For my boy. Years passed. I built a life around the two of us, quiet but steady, full of love I never thought I'd have room for after so much hurt. Then, one ordinary afternoon, a letter arrived. Thick envelope, expensive paper, from a trust fund I didn't know existed. Addressed to him, care of me, because someone, somewhere, still thought he mattered in our son's life. And just like that, the silence broke. He called. But that's a different kind of pain, one I never saw coming. Hello and welcome. Before we start, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. If these real stories speak to you, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. Let's start. I remember the exact moment he walked out. It was late at night in the hospital, the kind of quiet where every beep from the monitor felt too loud. I was 32 weeks pregnant, hooked up to machines because the doctors were fighting to keep our baby inside me just a little longer. My blood pressure had spiked again, the preeclampsia was getting worse, and they just told me I might have to stay on bed rest for the rest of the pregnancy. I was scared, truly, deeply scared for our little boy, for myself, for everything we'd planned. He was sitting in the plastic chair beside my bed, staring at the floor. I reached for his hand, needing him to look at me, to say something that would make the fear feel smaller. Instead, he pulled his hand away, slow and deliberate, like touching me might burn him. "I can't do this," he said, so quietly I almost thought I'd imagined it. I asked him what he meant. My voice cracked. I begged him to explain. He stood up, grabbed his jacket from the back of the chair, and looked at me one last time. Not with anger, not even with sadness, just empty. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Then he walked through the door and down the hallway. I listened to his footsteps until they faded into nothing. The nurse found me a little later, crying silently into the thin hospital pillow so I wouldn't disturb the monitors. She held my hand instead. She stayed. He never came back. Not for the emergency C-section 2 weeks later. Not when they placed our son, tiny, perfect, fighting, in my arms. Not for the weeks in the NICU, the sleepless nights, the endless worry. He went silent. Completely. Phone dead, apartment empty, social media gone. Just vanished. I learned to live with the silence. I had to. For my boy. Years passed. I built a life around the two of us, quiet but steady, full of love I never thought I'd have room for after so much hurt. Then, one ordinary afternoon, a letter arrived. Thick envelope, expensive paper, from a trust fund I didn't know existed. Addressed to him, care of me, because someone, somewhere, still thought he mattered in our son's life. And just like that, the silence broke. He called. But that's a different kind of pain, one I never saw coming. Hello and welcome. Before we start, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. If these real stories speak to you, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. Let's start. I still think about those first years with him, how everything felt soft around the edges, like the world had turned down its volume just for us. We met at a little coffee shop near the park, one of those places with mismatched chairs and plants hanging from the ceiling. I was reading a book I wasn't really absorbing, and he asked if the seat across from me was taken. When I looked up, he smiled in this quiet way, like he already knew I'd say yes. His name was Ethan. He had gentle hands and a voice that never rushed. We talked until the barista started stacking chairs around us. After that, we just fit. Weekends were slow walks through the farmer's market, picking out vegetables we didn't know how to cook. Evenings were takeout on the couch, my feet in his lap, while he rubbed my ankles without being asked. He'd trace circles on my skin and say things like, "One day we'll have a house with a big kitchen, and you'll burn pancakes while I pretend they're perfect." I'd laugh and tell him I didn't burn pancakes, I charred them with love. We talked about the future like it was already ours. A small wedding in my parents' backyard. 2 kids, maybe 3. A dog that would sleep at the foot of our bed. He wanted a boy first, someone to teach how to throw a baseball. I wanted a girl who'd steal my earrings and ask too many questions. We'd lie in bed on Sunday mornings, sunlight coming through the blinds in stripes, and plan it all in whispers. He'd rest his hand on my stomach even then, like he was already imagining life there. When the test showed 2 pink lines, we were sitting on the bathroom floor, backs against the tub. I handed him the stick with shaking fingers. He stared at it for the longest time, then looked up at me with tears in his eyes. "We're having a baby," he said, voice cracking. I nodded, and he pulled me into him so tightly I could feel his heart racing against mine. The first few months were pure light. He came to every appointment, held my hair when morning sickness hit at 3 a.m., made ginger tea and brought it to me in bed without a word. He started calling me Mama in the soft, teasing way that made me blush. We picked out tiny onesies together, soft grays and pale blues, and folded them into a drawer we'd cleared just for the baby. But around week 20, things shifted quietly. My blood pressure crept up at a routine check. The doctor used words like monitor closely and possible bed rest. Ethan squeezed my hand the whole drive home, but his grip felt different, tighter, like he was holding on to something slipping. The spotting started a few weeks later. Light at first, then enough to send us to the emergency room at midnight. He carried my bag, kept saying, it's okay," even though his voice shook. They kept me overnight for observation. He slept in the chair beside my bed, waking every time the nurse came in to check the monitors. After that, the appointments grew closer together. More ultrasounds, more blood draws. I'd sit in the waiting room trying to read magazines I didn't care about, and he'd scroll on his phone, thumb moving too fast. Sometimes I'd catch him staring at the wall, lost somewhere I couldn't reach. One evening, I came home from a quick grocery run, doctor approved, only 10 minutes, and found him on the balcony, phone pressed to his ear. He ended the call quickly when he saw me. "Work," he said, kissing my forehead. "Nothing important." I wanted to believe him. The quiet fear settled in slowly. I'd wake up at night and reach for him, needing the warmth of his arm around me, the steady sound of his breathing to remind me we were still okay. Most nights he was there. Some nights he'd get up to get water and stay gone too long. I left little notes in his lunch, simple things like, "We've got this," or "Love you always." He'd text back a heart emoji, but the calls between appointments grew shorter. I told myself it was stress. I told myself he was scared too. I still believed he'd stay. The weeks blurred into a haze of doctor's orders and quiet waiting. At 30 weeks, the preeclampsia took hold for real. My blood pressure wouldn't come down, no matter how still I lay. The headaches started, sharp, constant, like someone pressing thumbs into my temples. Protein in my urine, swelling in my hands and feet so bad I couldn't wear my rings anymore. The doctor sat me down one afternoon and said the words I'd been dreading: hospital admission, indefinite bed rest, magnesium sulfate drip to prevent seizures. They wanted to give our baby every extra day possible, but every day felt borrowed. Ethan drove me to the hospital that evening. He carried my small overnight bag, set it gently by the bed, helped me change into the gown. His hands were careful, the way they'd always been, but his eyes stayed on the tasks, adjusting the pillow, plugging in my phone charger, never quite meeting mine. "You'll be okay," he said, smoothing the blanket over my legs. I nodded, because what else could I do? I wanted to ask him to stay the night, but the words felt too heavy on my tongue. He kissed my forehead and left around 9, promising to be back first thing in the morning with my favorite tea. Morning came. No tea. A text, "Running late at work, we'll check in soon." I stared at the message for a long time, then set the phone face down on the tray table. The magnesium made everything feel far away, muscles heavy, thoughts slow. The nurses were kind, checking vitals every hour, adjusting the drip when my reflexes got sluggish. They talked to the baby through my belly, telling him to stay put a little longer, to keep growing strong. I'd close my eyes and try to feel him move, counting every kick like a prayer. Ethan came that evening, bringing a small bag of clothes I'd asked for. He sat in the chair, asked about the doctors, nodded at the right times. When I reached for his hand, he let me hold it, but his fingers stayed still. "I'm scared," I said quietly. He squeezed once, brief. "I know. They're taking good care of you." I wanted more. I wanted him to say he was scared too, that we'd get through it together, that he couldn't imagine a world without both of us in it. Instead, he looked at the monitor, the numbers climbing again. The next days settled into a pattern. He'd come after work, stay an hour or two, leave before the night shift changed. Texts grew shorter. Sometimes hours passed before a reply. I told myself he was tired, that the worry was eating at him in ways he couldn't name. I told myself a lot of things. At 32 weeks, the bleeding started. Not spotting this time, heavy, sudden. Alarms went off, nurses rushed in, wheeled me to labor and delivery for monitoring. They called Ethan 3 times. No answer. I lay there under bright lights, legs in stirrups, cold gel on my belly while they searched for the heartbeat. When they found it strong, steady, I cried without sound, tears sliding into my hair. He showed up hours later, hair disheveled, eyes red. Said his phone had died, that he'd been in a meeting he couldn't leave. I wanted to believe him. I was too exhausted not to. "I'm here now," he said, taking the chair. I nodded, closed my eyes. The pressure built in small, silent ways. The way he checked his watch. The way he stood by the window more than by my bed. The way his goodnight kisses landed on my cheek instead of my lips. I started having dreams where I reached for him and my hands passed right through. I'd wake up gasping quietly, careful not to set off the monitors, and find the chair empty. One night, after another blood pressure spike, the doctor talked about delivery soon, maybe days, not weeks. I texted Ethan the update. Read at 11:47 p.m. No reply. He came the next evening, later than usual. Sat heavily in the chair. Stared at the floor. I waited. "I can't do this," he said finally, so softly I almost missed it. My heart slowed, like the room had run out of air. "What do you mean?" He shook his head, stood, took his jacket. "I'm sorry." Then he walked out. The door closed with the softest click. I listened to his footsteps fade down the hall, until there was only the steady beep of the monitor and the quiet hum of the 4-pump. He didn't come back. Not the next day. Not the day after. His phone went straight to voicemail. Messages stayed unread. The silence was complete. And I was alone with our son, fighting to stay inside me just a little longer. 5 years had passed since that hospital room, 5 years of just my son and me, building a life from the quiet pieces left behind. He's 7 now. His name is Noah. He has curly hair that catches the sunlight, a laugh that fills every corner of our small house, and questions about everything: why the sky is blue, why some stars shine brighter, how come I always win at board games. I don't, but I let him think so sometimes. We have routines that feel sacred. Saturday mornings at the library, Sunday pancakes that I only sometimes burn, bedtime stories where I do all the voices. My parents helped more than I can ever repay, especially after Dad's heart attack 3 years ago. He didn't suffer long. Before he passed, he made sure Noah would never have to worry. He took his life insurance, the savings he and Mom had tucked away for decades, the money from selling their house when they downsized to be closer to us, and he put it all into a trust for his grandson. He told the lawyer, "Make sure it grows. Make sure it's there for whatever he needs: college, a home, a safety net." My daughter did this alone. This is for them. The investments did better than anyone expected. Quiet compound growth, steady and patient, the way Dad lived. One gray afternoon in early spring, the envelope came. Thick cream paper, return address from the law firm in the city. Addressed to Ethan, care of me. I knew what it was before I opened it. The annual update the trustee mentioned would start coming once Noah turned 7. I sat at the kitchen table, Noah coloring in the living room, and slid my finger under the seal. The numbers took my breath away. What started as generous had become something life-changing, enough for any path Noah might choose, enough to quiet every fear I'd carried in those early NICU nights. There was a courtesy copy of the trust terms: irrevocable, beneficiary Noah only, no parental access or control, guardian decisions solely mine until he's 25. And clipped to the statement was a scanned page from Dad's handwritten instructions to the lawyer, the one he added the week before he died, for the boy raised with more love and courage than most will ever know, by a mother who never once wavered when she should have had help. I read that line 3 times. Then I folded everything back into the envelope, hands steady but heart loud in my ears. I found Ethan online, new city, new job, new life that looked careful and small from the outside. I mailed him the entire package, no note from me, just the law firm's cover letter. He called 2 days later. His voice came through clear at first, almost light, like we'd spoken last week instead of never. "Hey, it's me. I got the letter." "Wow. I didn't know. How are you?" "And our son?" I answered calmly, told him Noah was wonderful, healthy, happy. He asked about the trust, how it worked, what the distributions looked like. There was a lift in his tone, curiosity, maybe something closer to certainty, as if this changed the math of everything. I told him to read the page clipped to the statement. The one in my father's handwriting. I heard the rustle of paper on his end. Then quiet. Long quiet. His breathing shallow. No questions. No more words about meeting Noah, about being part of things now, about what the money could mean. Just silence, deep, sudden, absolute. The kind that finally said everything he never had. That phone call lingered in the air long after the line went dead. His silence on the other end, thick, unmistakable, felt like the final echo of the one he'd left me with all those years ago. But this time, it didn't hollow me out. It settled, quiet and certain, like dust after a storm. I set the phone down and walked into the living room where Noah was building a tower with blocks, tongue peeking out in concentration. He looked up and grinned. "Mommy, look, it's taller than me now." I knelt beside him, added a block to steady it, and felt the familiar warmth spread through my chest. This was what I'd fought for in that hospital bed, monitors beeping, body betraying me, heart cracking open. Not for Ethan to stay, not for promises kept, but for this boy, this life we'd made from nothing but love and stubborn hope. The abandonment used to visit me in the quiet hours, a shadow asking why I wasn't enough, why he couldn't choose us when it mattered most. I'd lie awake replaying the footsteps fading down the hall, wondering if I'd said something wrong, been too needy, too scared. But time softened those questions. Motherhood reshaped them. Every midnight fever I soothed alone, every first step I caught on video for no one but us, every bedtime prayer where Noah thanked God for Mommy who never leaves, those moments built something stronger than the pain he left behind. Dad's trust fund wasn't about money. It was his way of saying, "I saw you. I saw how you carried this alone, and I'm proud." Reading his words again that night, I felt the healing settle deeper. No anger toward Ethan, just a quiet gratitude that the people who chose to stay had given us more than he ever could. I didn't call him back. Didn't need to. His silence this time wasn't a wound, it was confirmation. We'd grown in the space he left, roots deep and steady. Noah's tower wobbled, then stood tall again. I watched him, my heart full in a way I never thought possible back when I was terrified and alone. There are still days when the past whispers. But mostly, there's this peace, earned slowly, held gently. Noah deserves all of it. And so do I. Yet sometimes, late at night, I wonder if that silence was truly the end, or if something else is still coming. Some nights, when Noah is asleep and the house is still, I sit on the porch with a cup of tea and let the quiet wrap around me. It's a different quiet now, not the aching emptiness of that hospital room, but something fuller, earned. The kind that holds memories without letting them sting. I think about Ethan sometimes. Not with bitterness anymore. Just a gentle wondering about the man who couldn't stay when the road got hard. Love, I've learned, isn't the easy Sundays or the whispered plans. It's the showing up when everything is uncertain, when fear is loud and the future feels fragile. Responsibility isn't a feeling that comes and goes. It's a choice, made again and again, even when no one is watching. His silence after the letter, it was the truest thing he ever gave us. No false promises, no sudden claims on a life he walked away from. It closed the door softly, the way it needed to. Noah will grow up knowing he was wanted, fiercely, from the very first heartbeat. He'll know about his grandfather's love tucked safely away for his dreams. And if one day he asks about his father, I'll tell him the truth with the same calm I've carried all these years. Some people aren't strong enough to stay, but that never meant we weren't worth staying for. We are enough. More than enough. The stars are bright tonight, the air cool and kind. I breathe it in and feel the quiet strength that's grown in me, rooted deep, steady, warm. Noah's soft breathing drifts from his room, a reminder of every miracle we fought for. And in this gentle peace, I know we didn't just survive. We bloomed. Thank you for watching and being part of this story. If you enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe for more powerful real-life stories. Your support helps this channel grow and reach more hearts. Thank you and see you again soon.